Hello and welcome to Chapter 13 lecture for EN 215, and today we're going to talk about recommendation reports. So we're going to talk about how a recommendation report is used and how do we adjust the structure to accommodate the reader. We're going to devise criteria for evaluating after determining the problem and possible solutions. We're going to organize a recommendation report using the appropriate format, and finally we're going to compose a recommendation report by evaluating criteria and drawing conclusions using a point-by-point analysis. So let's start out with the easy stuff. What is a recommendation report? A recommendation report is a problem and solution report. It is a written answer to a need that has arisen. So a recommendation report suggests the best solution to a problem or a need, and recommendation reports help people solve large problems and small problems for anywhere from selection of a computer or IT-ware to the construction of a full building. A recommendation report can be solicited or unsolicited, and we've spoken about that before, which means it was asked for or not asked for. A receptive audience is going to be an audience open to ideas and suggestions. They're ready to read the recommendation early in the report. Now, on the other hand, an unreceptive audience is going to require more careful research and supporting information up front, with the recommendations coming towards the end of the report. A recommendation report typically are persuasive, and by persuasive I mean it's written in a way to convince someone of something. You can analyze your audience carefully to be able to convince them to act on your recommendation. So you need to understand your audience in order to understand how to get them to see your point of view. In order to write convincingly, you can use things like researched facts, opinions of authority figures, and also include some logical thinking in there. After you've done your audience analysis and before you begin writing, what you need to do is define your problem, brainstorm solutions, and then devise a criteria of the selection process to determine the proper solution. So first, define your problem. In a solicited report, your problem is usually given to you. So even though it's evident, we still want to put it into words. Now, in an unsolicited report, nobody's asked for the report, and you may need to have some additional explanation into the problem. And you want to make sure that readers can see the problem and the importance of the problem clearly. Then you're going to brainstorm solutions. So ask others to help you generate possible solutions, take notes, narrow your solution to just 2 or 3 choices, and in the end, you may actually have to do some additional research in order to find the proper solution. And seek as much information as you need in order to complete a full brainstorm. After you've narrowed down your choices from your brainstorm, you need to decide which criteria to use. So, interview people to help you decide what's important. Ask everyone that is concerned. Getting opinions is important so that the recommended solution is going to work for everyone involved. Your list should have no more than 5 criteria, and in the end, break larger criteria into sub-criteria. A recommendation report is a highly structured report that uses a consistent outline and a comparison contrast discussion section. So, base the format on the audience's needs. Format choices include email attachments, websites, or hyperlinks in a Microsoft Word document. That's going to help them to be able to find the background information if they would like to read additionally for themselves. A recommendation report consists of the following different sections: an introduction, a recommendation, or sometimes called a summary of discussion, the scope, what the report covers, what it does not cover, and why. And finally, you'll have a discussion, which would be your analysis of the criteria, the factors that were used in the decision making, and things of that nature. The introduction section is going to state the purpose of the report, briefly explain the problem, narrows your choices down to those 2 or 3 items that you've selected from your brainstorming round. It's going to give a criteria list. It's going to preview the rest of the report and it may or may not include the investigation methods that were used. Next, we have the recommendation section, and this section is going to make the final recommendation. It's going to use the criteria to summarize the reasons why this recommendation was chosen. And in a solicited report, remember, your readers want this information as early as possible. If you offer multiple recommendations, make sure you number them and have a consolidated list of all the recommendations in one location. Next, we have the scope, and then this section is going to list the criteria in descending order from most important to least important that were given in the introduction. And it's going to explain why criteria were chosen and why they're ranked as they are. This section can also include why selection criteria were not included and the reasons behind that as well. Finally, the discussion section. This is going to analyze each of the criteria thoroughly, starting with the most important. And it is going to draw a conclusion about which item is better for each of those criteria. So sometimes we do a comparison contrast discussion, and most recommendation reports are going to follow a point-by-point organizational plan. Now, what that is that is going to zigzag from one item to the other, comparing or contrasting some of those aspects of one to the other. So say we have item 1, safety, that is going to lead us into item 2, safety. That's going to take us down to item 1, cost, item 2, cost, item 1, efficiency, and then item 2, efficiency. And you can see how it does a point by point, and it makes a zigzag between all of those items. Last, we have appendices, and this is going to be that supplementary material and information that appears at the end of the document. It can have any type of information, document, supporting materials, anything that you think is going to help your audience understand the report better. Each item is entered and labeled as a separate appendix. Typically, they are numbered or lettered Appendix A, and this is what is in Appendix A, so there is a title. They often contain elements that are not in the report, but closely aligned to the information that is in there to help support it. Composing recommendation reports. Decisions made in composing recommendation reports include the setting criteria, evaluating criteria, and researching criteria. So let's look at setting criteria and evaluation criteria. So your criteria are the factors on which you base a decision. What you choose depends on what you or your audience and your colleagues think is important. And all of that criteria must have some kind of name, a rank, and some standard to compare them to. Next, you're going to have an evaluation, and this evaluation process is going to be a step-by-step process. Finally, you have researching criteria, and the research data for a recommendation report can come from many different places, including field research, so surveys, interviews, and visits, websites, manuals, catalogs, and even print media such as consumer reports or government publication, business websites, or even professional journals. That is all for this short lecture from today. So as always, I'm available by email, and I will see you next lecture.